Okay, I will just jump into it. I have two case studies. One is Eugène Deslor's Les Nuits Électriques from 1928, and the other one is Olivio Barberi, Site-Specific Las Vegas 2005. Okay. So that's Berlin. So he basically switched between Berlin and Paris, and we will just watch a couple of so that was during the Berlin Week of Lights, the White Weeks, in October 1928. Okay, I have to stop now and get to the next one. So I know. Just here. Okay. So this is filmed from a helicopter in shift tilt technique. Okay, we have to stop here now. So both movies are about 12 minutes long in real time. Okay, so the idea is here modern simulation versus modern stimulation versus postmodern simulation. This is a shot Barberi did during the day, just to give you a better idea of the technique he used. So for over 100 years, mass cultural phenomena have been growing in importance, taking over from elite structures of cultural expressions to become site where real power resides and dominating ever more surely our social imaginary. Of course, architecture as a sign or advertising, as in Reklame architecture of the 1920s, like the department stores, movie theaters, and the shopping stores designed by Mendelssohn, are a mirrored image of German politics and the economy at the time. The impact of Reklame architecture, a new species of building that arose in German metropolis during the period of economic reconstruction in which advertising becomes an integral part of the facade. In short, reclame architecture was a test run of the extreme, an architecture that is also an advertisement. As the reflections of the processes of capitalist industrialization in forms clad for popular consumption, these manifestations are literal and connectional expressions of the surface. The sites of surface in Germany 1920s were aesthetizations of functions. They were the latest in artistic design and yet served the everyday public. They were very much part of the industrial economy of the era, having been built up along the model of the new industrial technologies production lines. We will find in the Weimar years continual crossovers in art and architecture between artists and society. The Bauhaus sought to be realized its mission in applied arts for the masses, such as de-ornamentalized typography, kitchen units, and other mass-product furniture. Just a few quick run through those examples we will all know. While architects like Mendelssohn built some of their most radical designs for the display needs of consumerism and the film industry. Taylorism and Fortism principles, ideas migrated to Germany from the US of infinite expansion and efficiency techniques that determined the predominant system of labor, products, and capital for most of the 20th century, were adhered to the Weimar Republic with a unique fanatism born of a collective need to repair wounded nationhood in the wake of the humiliations of the Treaty of Versailles and Germany's loss of colonial and military strengths. Consequently, it is not coincidental that in the relative boom phase of 1924 to 1929, Weimar society enjoyed a concomitant upswing in architectural output that entirely matched the economic philosophy of this period. Only in Germany during the Weimar Republic did modernity's cult of surface extend uniformly into all visual fields and come to dominate cultural and business production so simultaneously. What we see here is a department store in Berlin, then known as functionalism or Neue Sachlichkeit and operative, not just in architecture, but in all areas of design. New functionalism's rejection of the decorative style constitutes the century's most concentrated systematization of surface and has become one of European modernist best-known visual codes. The determinant of building is all and will be their ability to integrate, reflect, and promote the purest surface of all, namely electric light. The surfaces of the buildings must be bright and smooth and large. Here, it is not the construction, but light that matters most. The building functions not as a building, instead more as a spatial physical creation and only as a phenomenon of immaterial surfaces. Evidence of new functionalist surface style was a transformation through glass curtain walls induced by modern architecture and the interrelation of outdoor electric advertising with the city street, the evolution of the Weimar film industry with its movie places and film set designs as a surface of German silent cinema. So enshrine like store display windows, which we see here. So there was always this interdisciplinary work between film, architecture, and all art disciplines. This is a gun shop. So what most transformed the power of outdoor advertising as a mass of visual signifiers was the use of electricity. Modern urban surface culture was experienced as an outdoor reading of the city's commercial life force, namely the street. These streets of surface in which zones of business dwelling, advertising, and entertainment all simultaneously could coexist and intermingled were located usually in the city center. Germany's rise of electric advertising occurred during the Berlin in Light Week in 1928, when there were 4 nights continuous of full illumination of the city's monument that was financed by them. So Light is Life proclaimed the Osram Electric Company adornment of the Siegessäule Großer Stern, which was clad with a 66-foot high surface of electric light, admired by a journalist as the Tower of Pure Fire. In response to this electric celebration, there were parades, open-air concerts, and it was like a Christmas event. And there was also a competition for the best window display. And this is how the filmmaker copied and zoomed in the column, Osram column. The new modernist building like AEG's Haus der Technik was shining on Friedrichstraße, or the white Biwak building were featured as examples of the latest in Lichtarchitektur, architecture of the light. Oh no, we can stay there. The deployment of Reklame architecture points to the rise of a society of spectacle, a phenomenon that is principal theorist, the Situationist Guy Debord, in fact dated back to the 1920s. Debord already recognized in 1967 how today's spectacle is capital accumulated to the point where it becomes image, a condition that was made acute by the fact that commodities are now all that there is to see. The world we see is the world of the commodity. But now we go to postmodern simulation. But the world financial markets of the post-war years have since brought about a tectonic shift of urban identities away from the heterogeneous sites of modernity and towards what Saskia Sassen has determined to be far more streamlined postmodern conditions of globalization. From the Weltstadt, world city of modernity, Berlin, Paris, New York, we have thus reached the global city of post-modernity, London, Tokyo, and New York, always locations where the stock market was very prominent. These highlights of Reklame architecture were images that have journeyed into postmodernism, subsequent transformation of modern street-based surface into electronically based simulation. The exterior of a city like Las Vegas, which is a city in form of a strip mall, is no more a collective theater where it happens, like in Berlin or Paris. There is no collective in it left. The street has become here residue, organizational device, a mere segment of the metropolitan plane. Electronic transparency is replacing the traditional opacity of building surfaces to the extent that we are no longer ever in front of the city, but always inside it. There is only the interfacade of monitors and control screens. All around, the tinted glass facades of the buildings are like faces, frosted surfaces. It is as though there were no inside the buildings, as if there were no one behind the faces. Urban modernity that bespoke the 40s dictates of mass production and consumption, but was still host to definite sense of place. For the visual effects, a location; for the action, a path for the participant. Weimar visual display was created as a spatial experience whose location was still phenomenological and still on the street. The site-specific of the postmodern street is now the globalized centrality of transnational capital, and therefore has no sense of place. There is now only surface as postmodern simulation rather than modern stimulation. An invasion of electronic imagery into all things, a forced extroversion of all interiorly, that is our postmodern condition. Okay, so we have to skip very quickly, and I just will explain in a second the lens shift and tilt. So with a normal lens, you usually, which you see on the first image, you have to shift the camera to get the whole building. If you put it in the straight forward position, you only get a part of the building. And if you use the tilt shift, what Berberi is using, you get out of the conveying verticals. So here's a so the video works of Italian photographer provides perplexing views of contemporary urban landscapes using a special lens, shifting planes of focus, and complex soundtracks. Berberi's aerial portraits reduce monuments of civilization to the scale of miniature models, or as the artist calls them, specific site installations. And he did those movies around the world, Rome, he picked all kinds of locations. Okay, so I will do a final statement here. I will quote the artist. If site-specific provides an almost anthropological commentary on the human drive to create and inhabit densely layered urban environment, it is simultaneous a stylistic tour de force that takes photographic visual language beyond its boundaries. I started out from classical photography. What is given here? So, but Berberi never had the intention to be looked at his pieces as a documentary. Captivated by a vision of the 21st century city as a kind of site-specific installation, temporary and constantly in flux, he sought a photographic corollary for the radical mutations of urban forms that he saw taking place. Using a medium camera outfitted with a tilt-shift lens, he found that he was able to register enormous quantity of precise visual information and at the same time throw whole sections, what we see here, of the image out of focus. The resulting photographs made modern cities look like reduced-scale architectural models, a vision, as Berberi puts it, of the city as an avatar itself. Okay, I hope I'm in time. Yeah.